The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome to this morning's Monday morning helpline session with your host, James McDonald.
Well, thank you very much, Andrea. And indeed, it is Monday morning. Monday morning means that it is our open forum helpline session. And I know that for many of you, this is your first participation in the helpline session. Let me tell you how this works. Every Monday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Eastern time, we spend an hour or so, and what we do is we discuss any topic that comes to your mind, anything that you'd like to talk about. It could have to do with lead generation, it could have to do with lead conversion, setting up systems, unique selling propositions. You determine the topic of conversation on the open forum helpline. And what you're going to discover is this. You can come armed with your questions. You know, you can type them into the chat, and we've also got your live mic working as well, so we can discuss it that way. But what you're going to find is that the questions from your fellow coaching students are extremely helpful to you as well. And that's the whole point of doing these Monday morning sessions. It's very easy, especially when you're brand new with this, to fall back into your old way of doing things. Maybe you had a busy weekend showing property and, running around doing what you do. It's easy to get out of Craig Proctor mode when that happens and operate as a traditional realtor. What we want to do every Monday morning is just spend an hour or so discussing the system and getting you locked in to Craig Proctor's system mode for the week. Remember, keep your eye on the prize and remember what it is we're building towards. And by spending a little bit of time working on your business to start the week, it's sort of going to put you in the right mindset to make sure that that happens. So all you have to do is consider anything and everything that you'd like to talk about, anything that's unclear perhaps, anything you might have a question about, and we will discuss it. And Andrea, our lovely operator, will explain to everybody exactly how that's going to happen.
Yes, I will. If you have a mic on your computer or you're on the telephone, you can ask an audio question by clicking the hand icon at the top of your control panel, or just type your comment or question in the question box.
Good morning, Mr. McDonald.
Good morning, Mr. Proctor. How are you today?
Good. It sounds like you've had your morning cup of coffee.
Yes, you can always tell, can't you?
I can, yes.
Okay. Yes, I've had plenty of coffee, so we're all excited and revved up and ready to go here. So, Andrea, having said that, let's get started.
Okay, our first question from Randy typed in chat. How do I get the equal housing logo on my advertising?
Like, where do you get it from, or how do you place it on your ad? If it's print, you're just going to send it to whoever is printing it. Once you copy the logo, you can put it on to all of your electronic advertising. I don't know, James, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, what I want to do, I want you to make sure what it needs to go on. In other words, if I were to grab a local newspaper in your marketplace and I were to look at every single classified ad that a realtor runs promoting a property, for example, would I see that logo in every one of those ads? Now, if you say no, then what that means is, well, wait a minute then. There are times when we need to include that, and there are times when we don't. You better figure that out. We need to know when that equal housing logo needs to appear and when it doesn't. Because if it's not mandatory for it to be there, then we don't need to include it. If it is mandatory to be there, well, then the answer would be the same as any other ad that you'd run. Then it needs to be included, just like a disclaimer, just like your license number, just like the brokerage name. Whatever is a requirement, it needs to go there. And that's what you'll need to include. Now, if you're referring to the ad generator, you're right. You'll have to create the ad so that the content of the ad is perfect, and then whoever is going to print that ad or whoever is going to run that ad would have to add that to it, if indeed it is mandatory. And that's my point. I want to make sure when and where and if it is mandatory to include that in everything that you're doing.
Okay, our next question for Mary. I have a listing coming out soon, a luxury home for $3.6 million in Toronto. I would like to include a USP offer on the feature sheet and anywhere else I advertise a listing. Which USP offer would suit buyers or sellers in this price range?
All right, well, let me take that one. If it's a multi-million-dollar property, how about this? Move up to this home and I'll buy your home for cash. Right? Anybody who's selling a multi-million-dollar property would know that the potential buyer is going to have a house to sell. And any move-up buyer is really caught in the real estate catch-22. Right? They're concerned if they move up to this multi-million-dollar home without selling their existing home, they could get stuck with two homes. If they sell their existing home first, they could, end up homeless. So for move-up buyers, the guaranteed sale program is, an excellent offer. If you're in the Toronto market, you might also want to use a performance guarantee to attract sellers like this. Your home sold for at least 100% of your asking price, or I'll pay you the difference. Okay, the condition is you get this at the asking price. There was a big article, by the way, in the newspaper, the weekend newspaper, James, about the Toronto market, and they're talking about the insanity of this market. They're interviewing buyers that have placed offers on 7, 10 properties. They can't buy a property despite the fact that they're going in at $100,000 or even $200,000 or $300,000 over the asking price on these multi-million-dollar properties.
It's incredible.
Incredible. I'll try to grab it before we're done here. It's probably in my trash can, but it talks about the insanity of the real estate market, and that's what happens when you've got artificially low interest rates. Okay, we have historically low interest rates. With no sign of the Federal Reserve really raising rates. I mean, there were supposed to be 4 rate hikes here in 2016. They raised the rates by a quarter point December of last year. You can see what's happened with the strength of the American dollar is really, the American dollar is really tapered off here because there really is no plan to raise the interest rates. We might get one rate hike maybe in the fall, possibly at the December meeting, but we've got low rates, and that's what's fueling the crazy housing market in many parts of the country.
Well, and for Toronto, of course, the amazing weather is a big attraction.
Okay, enough. Let's move on to the next question, please.
This is from Michael. What is the minimum maximum volume a specific area should have to be viable to begin marketing? Okay,
repeat that again. You mean number of homes?
It just
I think that's exactly what they mean. What they mean is what kind of sales volume in an area would make it viable.
Yes, they're confirming.
Or not viable. In other words, if you're going to look at a neighborhood, Craig, if you're going to say, well, I'm thinking about marketing to Snowball Corners, probably not viable, just simply because there clearly isn't enough activity. And, what I might suggest is rather than looking at whether an area has enough, why don't you look within your area at what areas have the most? What neighborhoods, what geographical locations within your marketplace has the most amount of activity would be the best place to start. So instead of basing it on, does this little area have enough business, what you'd rather do is look at all of the areas and say, which is the most viable neighborhood, communities, geographical areas in my marketplace, and target to those areas.
Yeah, well, you don't want a target market that's too small, but on the other hand, you don't want a target market that's too big. Okay, so for example, if I decided that my target market was going to be all of Toronto, well, the problem is I don't have the resources to really market to a city of 4 million people. Okay, but James's example, the other extreme is he knows there's this little area called Snowball's Corners, and it has a gas station. That's about it. That would be a target market that would be too small. And in Anaheim, if you remember, I talked about doing a coaching consultation with one of our brand new coaching members who lived in Florida. And they said, well, I want my target market to be a couple of these waterfront condos. And what we determined when we did the research was even if she got 100% of those condo sales in those two buildings, it just wouldn't be enough. There wouldn't be enough transactions for her to reach her goals. So why don't we do this? Why don't we whip over to the reality program? If you can give me control of the webinar here just for a few minutes, Andrea, I'll just remind everybody what we talked about at the Super Conference. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So we go filter, and this is a demo for Toronto. I've got a demo site for Toronto, and we go to cities. And if you remember what we spoke about at the Super Conference, we looked at all the different cities that are available to me, and it tells you the number of homes that sell, which is very important, right? I don't want a target market that's too small. 8 homes in the last 12 months, 8 sales. Brampton might be too big. Okay, there's 10,000 sales. So if you remember the analogy I gave you, I said, we don't want to be spitting in the Pacific Ocean. Okay, we want to be jumping up and down in a puddle like the Incredible Hulk. You must pick a target market that makes sense in relationship to your budget. Okay, so most of you can't market effectively to 10,000 homes. Maybe some of you can. So if you take a look at a target market that might make more sense, let's scroll down and let's look at other choices. So Newmarket had, let's call it 1,800 sales. And the other area I worked was Aurora. So let's go up to Aurora. Aurora had 1,164 sales. These are sales these are home sales in the last 12 months. Now keep in mind, you can double that for the number of sides. So every time a home sells, if you've got, let's call this 1,200 sales, that would be 2,400 transactions. The other things we want to look at when it comes to selecting your target market is, well, how long does it take for these properties to sell? Well, that's pretty good, right? 19.1 days, as opposed to this area, 169 days, okay, or this area, 126 days. The other thing we want to look at is average sales price, 787. Okay, so that's good, versus this area here where the average sales price is only half as much. I can sell half as many homes in Aurora and make the same amount of money as selecting this target market. The other thing we want to look at, as we've discussed here, is the percentage of asking price that homes are selling for. So check this out. On average, homes in Aurora, on average, are selling for 101% of the asking price. That's how hot the market is. So that would tell my brain that I want to get listings in Aurora, that they're going to sell on average for more, money in the bank. You can take the listing to the bank.
Yep.
You can cash the listing. On average, my listings are going to sell for over the asking price in 19 days. Okay, so you want to drill down and do a bit of research in your market. Now, you're all coaching members, so you have access to this. All you need to do is contact the reality program, and they'll get you set up. So how can we do that? Let me show you the phone number for these guys. Is it on here anywhere? I think if I scroll down to the bottom, maybe. Right here, reality. Okay, I know what we can do. We can probably just go here. Okay. Don't tell me they don't have their phone number on this. Well, they don't. They probably should have their phone number on their homepage. Okay. Well, look, I'm going to give everyone their phone number because I have it here written down.
Under the tab Help on the far top right.
Help? You think that might work?
Try it.
Well, that didn't work.
They sure don't want you calling them, do they?
No, they really don't want you calling them. Search. Okay, that is kind of weird. Okay, so we probably want to let them know they should have their phone number on here to make it really easy for people to reach them. But let me give everyone their 800 number here. It's toll-free 1-877-785-4321. And you tell them that you're a Craig Proctor coaching member. I'm going to repeat that because I know a lot of you didn't write that down. So it's toll-free 877-785-4321. Tell them you're a Craig Proctor member. It's $29.95 a month. For non-Craig Proctor members, I verified this last week, by the way. I talked to Leanne Dancona, the president and founder of the company. $550 for the same service if you're not a Craig Proctor coaching member. So that's one of the benefits you get of being a coaching member. All right, let's, well, we can play with this a bit more, I guess. We can drill down, of course, to not only city, but we can drill down to community. So I can look at all the different communities in Toronto.
Could you hit show your screen again, Craig?
Okay, sorry.
That's okay. It's my fault.
So we could look at all the different communities. I didn't do this right. So let me go to city here. We'll go to city. And we're going to click on Newmarket. That's the city. And add to search. And now I want to go filter by community. So these are all the communities within Newmarket. So I might want to target just a specific neighborhood within Newmarket. Well, you've heard me talk about Stonehaven Estates and Glenway Estates. So let's look at Stonehaven Estates. There was 290 sales. Average days in the market, 18.9. The average sales price, ooh, that's lucky, 88888. Okay, and the average list to sale ratio is 100%. So on average, homes sell for 100% of the asking price in 18 days. And then Glenway Estates, the average price is, let's call it $800,000. And again, on average, homes sell for 100% of the asking price. It only takes 15 days on average to sell a home in Glenway Estates. So we can go there. We can add to search. And then if you want to send postcards to that area, you would go to highest turnover streets. And here's the homes in order of most sales in Glenway Estates. So Alex Donor had the most sales, 14 sales on that street in the last year. Okay, if I'm doing going out in a listing appointment, I want to bring some impressive information for the seller. So there we are. That's days in the market in Glenway Estates. Here's list to sales ratio in Glenway Estates. Now I can search back if I want. I can search back. I could search back, more. I could go 2 years. This is interesting. Let's go back 10 years. That's list to sales, but let's go to price here. Average price. Okay, that's what's happened with the average price over the last 10 years. So it was $540,000 in January of 2010, and it reached a peak of 900. Basically doubled. So if you're working with a buyer, well, let's make this more real. Let's say that I had a buyer, James, come to my office 2 years ago, and they're kicking tires. They're thinking, I'd really like to buy a house in Glenway Estates. You can say, well, when you met me 2 years ago, the average price was $708, and today it's $855. So how is waiting working for you? Not very well. Okay, now what if I want to look at the performance of all the other real estate agents I compete with in Glenway Estates? Okay, so 91 agents in Glenway Estates sold one house. The top agent, there were 2 of them, and they sold 7 homes. So if you want to be the dominant agent in Glenway Estates, if you sell 7 houses, you're like the top person. So there really is no dominant agent. It's 108 transactions, and 2 agents, 7. 1 agent sold 4. So this is good information. No, if you're the agent that sold 7, you can claim to be, no one sells more than you in Glenway Estates. James, you want to say something?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And just so that everybody knows, they're looking at this saying, what is Glenway? Glenway's a neighborhood. It's a big neighborhood, but it's just a neighborhood. It's not a town. It's not a city. It's a neighborhood. It's a neighborhood with 108 home sales a year. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
100. But look, it just shows you how divided the sales are. 108 homes sold in this neighborhood in the last 12 months, but 91 of the 108 went to different agents. So 91 agents sold 1 property. So there is this is something that's important to know, right? There is no dominant agent here. Let's agree. So this might, go into your thinking, right? Your decision-making process when you're selecting your target market. One of the things I want to look at is, well, am I going to be up against some dominant agent in that marketplace, or is this neighborhood pretty wide open? Well, this tells me there is no big player in Glenway Estates. There were 2 agents that sold 7 homes out of the 108. This is wide open. This is a marketplace that I can dominate in.
It's actually about 140 deals. But the point is, 140 deals over the course of the year in the neighborhood. If you go over a few columns, Craig, it says total number of units sold, right? Because if there were 2 realtors that sold 12, that's 24. So you can see in that fourth column.
Okay, you're right.
But either way, it works out to about 140. The point is, you sell 7 homes out of 140, and you have the highest market share of all realtors in the marketplace. That's pretty impressive.
Okay, let's do this. Let's go to Google it, and we can go to homes sold. So I'm meeting with the seller. James, you're my seller, and I say, James, let's have a look at all the homes visually that have sold in Glenway Estates. Let's have a look at this. Do you remember that street? Okay.
I sure do.
Okay, so this would be my next door neighbor. I used to live here. My first house was in Glenway Estates. So this is my right next door, 402. I lived at 400, and he sold for $803,000. So let's have a look. Okay, right there. Okay, that's my first house.
Honestly, we might have questions in the chat, Andrea.
Yes.
We do. We have so many questions. I've been reading them. I'm not even sure where to start.
Are there any questions about looking at pictures by any chance? Because we can take care of all those right now.
Look, I'm giving everyone an excellent demo of this program, and everyone wanted to know where my first house was. So people wanted to know this. All right. Well, look, I get your point, James. Let's continue on with some more questions.
It was very subtle.
I'll let you take control of the webinar.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and take it back. And just so everyone knows, I have typed in the chat box to everyone, qlsystemstats.com, and the phone number you need to reach them. Oh, Alex says, nice house.
Thank you, Alex.
See. Joni wants to ask, how can we take over a farm area where there is a dominant agent?
Okay, well, I would use less branded advertising as sort of a stealth approach.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we all start somewhere. I didn't start off by being the dominant agent. I started off by being the underdog. But Craig,
doesn't that really show you what you just looked at with Glenway about how our perception of what the dominant agent isn't necessarily the reality? If you sold 7 homes in Glenway out of 140 sales, you would be considered the dominant agent. 7 sales out of 140. In other words, your perception of what is dominant just means they sell more than anybody else does in that area. But if you look at what is that expressed as a percentage, you're talking about less than 5% of all the transactions with that particular agent. So unless you could come across a marketplace where you could say 95% of the sales are done by one realtor, which is highly unlikely. And that's why this reality is so important that you see, so that you know perception versus reality. But I'm sorry, I just wanted to point that out because it's what we just looked at.
Yeah. Now there may be neighborhoods where there is a dominant agent, and this is what I'm trying to point out here is if you had your choice. So in my area, Newmarket, as a new agent, I have my choices of what neighborhoods I can target. So let's say in Glenaway Estates, James is right, there's not a real dominant agent. The top agent only sold 7 homes. But there might be another area, maybe in Stonehaven Estates, where there is a dominant agent. I'm just saying that might factor into my decision as to whether I want to target this area versus the other neighborhood. Now, even in situations where there is a top agent or dominant agents, you probably don't want to go head-to-head on a spending spree with branded advertising, because that's what a lot of agents do. You know, I'm the area expert, and they're blowing their brains out on image or branded advertising. That's why you want to use a stealth approach, because less branded advertising will always generate you more leads than branded advertising. With less branded advertising, you're not talking about you as an agent, right? We're not offering any agent. There is no agent being promoted. We have the minimum disclosure that's required by law, and we're trying to fly underneath the prospect's advertising radar. So it's not like they're picking you as an agent over another agent. They don't even know, in most cases, they're contacting an agent. So that's a great way to get your foot in the door in a brand new market, even in situations where you're competing against an established, top realtor. Now, once you start to get listings in that area, of course, we're going to use that with your branded component. So there's 2 types of marketing we teach you with this program. We teach you stealth or less branded advertising, and we teach you branded advertising. For most of you, it's the less branded advertising that you need to focus on, which we will be teaching you every Friday on the Ad Clinic. Starting this Friday, you're going to have an opportunity to upload your ads. We'll look at your ads. We'll pick some of the best examples of what to do, and we'll probably pick some examples of things not to do, ads that need some improvements. All right, so we've answered a couple of these questions anyway. Michael Tobian was asking, what's the minimum, maximum size of market or specific area that we should be targeting? So we've done a good job on that. Greg says, do we have copy and paste Google pay-per-click or Facebook ads that we can customize in our marketplace? So Andrea, on the coaching site, maybe you can show Greg and everyone else some examples of some Facebook ads that are right there on the home page of the coaching site. And my advice to everybody, if you remember, on Friday's Ad Clinic call, for those of you that attended, was if you spend some time on the coaching resource site, if you spend some time on that site, you'll find most of what you're looking for. Okay, a lot of the questions that you have here will be answered by just spending a few minutes on the coaching resource site. Okay, Joni Alexis, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. The question was, at the Super Conference, there was a website that Craig mentioned. It showed all the streets in your farm area, so we just covered that. That's the reality program. Christy Thomas is asking, says, good morning, Craig. Can you describe the best practices for leveraging a listing to get more listings and more buyers? I had my first listing go live on Friday. Yay. Thanks for your help. Okay, well, every listing that you get, Christy, you're thinking the right way. Every listing that you get should be a gateway to many, many, many more listings if you do this properly. The first thing that you want to be skilled at is when you get ad calls or sign calls on your property, you want to make sure that you're doing a really good job of converting those ad calls and sign calls to business. Okay, so remember, you're not there just trying to sell the house that you have. The truth is, as we've discussed, the vast majority of ad call and sign call inquiries that you get, those buyers are going to eliminate that property. Just so you know that. I know this is your first listing, but just giving you a heads up that 99% of the inquiries that you get on this listing, no matter how beautiful it is, when you describe the property to them, they're going to tell you that they're going to say, they're going to apologize, say, I'm sorry, that house is too big or too small, not enough bedrooms, too many bedrooms, too much money, wrong neighborhood, too new, too old. There's going to be something wrong with it. Okay, that's called normal. What you want to be really good at is determining what they're looking for and making them an offer in hopes that you can meet with them so you can get them signed either to a buyer agency agreement or a listing agreement. Okay, now we're going to teach you how to write the ads so you get more inquiries on your ads. If you just talk about what you have, if you write a typical, traditional real estate ad, what you'll find is you're not going to have very many inquiries. If you write an ad that gives buyers all the eliminating information in the ad, like the address, the price, and adds other eliminators, all you're doing is spending money to cause buyers not to call you. And that's, not the idea behind advertising. We want to learn how to write ads that are it's very difficult for buyers to eliminate that ad. And if the buyer can't eliminate the property, what must they do? They must respond. So what's even better, Christy, than advertising a single house is advertising a list of properties. Okay, so if this home is in a certain neighborhood, if it's in Glenway Estates, why not offer an entire list of all the homes in Glenway Estates, including full descriptions and pictures of each property? It's very difficult for a buyer who's looking in Glenway Estates to eliminate all the properties. However, it's very easy for them to eliminate any single one property. Let's look at the next question here. This is from Ron. Ron Piccolo. I have unbranded postcards. I send out about 5,000 monthly. I get a few responses, but they leave the wrong numbers. I tried many ways to get the numbers, but no luck. All I have is email addresses. I reply to the email addresses, but I don't get a response. Well, Ron, no surprise that they don't respond to the email addresses. I could never figure out in a big way how to get prospects that were deliberately trying to hide from me to respond to an email. I mean, that's why they didn't leave you a phone number in the first place. However, I'm a little surprised that you're getting a large number of the prospects not giving you an honest phone number. I'm assuming you're driving them to a landing page and not the hotline. So I'm going to suggest, if this is the case, Ron, you probably want to drive the prospects to the hotline, because the hotline automatically captures their phone number. But good marketing should compel the prospects to, leave their phone number. I really didn't have that kind of problem. Not everyone left their correct number or a phone number at all. But with the hotline, one way or the other, you are going to capture their phone number.
The truth is I kind of would like to do see if we can see what the ad says, what the actual postcard offers, what it looks like. That would definitely play a role, and then what the landing page looks like, and how it's asking for information. That's important as well. So I realize you suggested you've tried different approaches, but that would be something that would be worth taking a look at to determine why they're only giving an email address, and even doing something as simple as requiring them to include other information. Even if you start off one at a time. I'll tell you though, that is something that we look at almost every Friday on the ad clinic sessions that we do. So here's what I'm going to suggest. In addition to sharing this with your coach, why don't you upload your direct mail piece to the ad clinic on Friday? And then what we'll do is we'll actually go to the landing page on the direct mail piece on Friday, and we'll look at the landing page as well as the message itself. And I assure you we will give you some suggestions that will get a different result.
One thing I'd like to add too, and what you're seeing on your screen is with Google, even if you only have an email address, it's very easy to find phone numbers, contact numbers for individuals. I just typed in Ron's email address that you registered with, and as you can see, several phone numbers came up. With social media, most everybody as an adult has their information online somehow.
Here's the thing is, we would like them to give us a phone number most often. What Andrea is saying is absolutely right. I mean, if you want to get a phone number, 9 times out of 10 you can number. But here's the thing is, would you agree that somebody that voluntarily leaves information is probably doing it because they're a better, more motivated prospect than somebody who doesn't? So in other words, this isn't just about getting everybody to give their information. It's about getting the good ones who are at that point, who are more motivated to ask for the information. It's a combination of both, but the ad and the landing page have to be set up effectively in order for that to occur. So we'll take a look at that. But I mean, if we can get the prospect to ask for the information and give their name, I mean, an email address and their name, you're going to get a phone number. But again, the best prospects are the ones that give a phone number, and we can get them to do that. Not all of them, but certainly the good ones. So again, Friday, make sure you upload your ad. We'll take a look at it, and we'll go to the landing page, and we'll give you all kinds of good ideas.
Okay, back to the equal housing logo for a second. Harry Kimbrough says that's available at realtor.org. Ellen Levy says, I can send whoever the equal housing logo. Ellen, maybe you can just email that to Andrea. Andrea will type in her email address, and then Andrea can place it here for people to download. But if you go to realtor.org, you can get it there. Your state association website, you can get it there as well. Okay, let's see if there's any audio questions at this point, Andrea.
We do. I know that Harry Kimbrough had his hand raised, and he still does. Go ahead and say hello, Harry.
Okay,
Harry?
sounds like we're disconnected.
Can you hear me?
We
There
can.
he is.
Hey, I think
Morning,
I
Harry.
that by mistake. I don't have a question this morning.
Okay, no problem. Harry, I got your note about finding the equal housing logo. Thank you very much for that. Let's see who's next.
And as you can see on your screen now, we have all of the equal housing opportunity logos in different formats, whichever you need. And this is right from
Okay.
realtor.org.
So here's what you want to check into is, as James mentioned, where do you actually need to have this? We don't want to have this anywhere we don't need to. And how big or small can it be? If we have to have the equal housing logo, we want it as small as we're able to have it. All right, let's go to the next audio question, please.
Well, we don't have any more audio questions. Everything's just in chat.
Okay, let's go to Greg Shelton's question. Greg says, I found a small local paper. Craig, in your opinion, what would be the best seller and best buyer ad to test first in this small local paper? And are these ads easy to customize in our marketplace? Well, here's how easy they are to customize, Greg. I don't want you to change anything except for at the bottom, you're going to have your disclaimer, your name and company name versus mine. So, Andrea, let's go to the home page of the coaching website. And let's go under display ads. And let's show everyone the online home evaluation ad and for sellers and the best buy ad, or yeah, this is a good one right here for closures. Okay, so Greg, you might want to test these two. We've got one for buyers and we've got one for sellers. I found that these ads work well under homes for sale, but they also work well randomly peppered throughout the local paper. When they're randomly peppered throughout the local paper, meaning they're not position dependent, you can usually get a remnant space deal. A remnant space is extra space that every newspaper and every publication have. Obviously, you can't go under. The newspaper can't go under. They have to go over. They always produce a publication with a little bit too much space. You can negotiate to get this extra space, which they typically give to charities like the Heart and Stroke Foundation, the Cancer Society, or they'll run house ads. Okay, so in my instance, in my case, it'll be an ad that says, the Era banner, everybody reads it. You can usually negotiate 50 to sometimes even 60 or 70% off the normal line rate. So an ad that you're looking at right now on the screen it's going to be approximately 2 inches wide and 1 inch deep, would cost me about anywhere from $25 to $40 to run under a local paper under a remnant space deal. That's a good place to start. Here's the way I want you to look at it. If you run this ad and you sell a listing, let's say, and you make a $20,000 commission check, that pays for a lot of $30 and $40 ads, right? Like, using this strategy, you've got to be like kind of a bad marketer to lose money on this deal. Okay, now I just want to set your expectations. When I run an ad like this, I might only get 3 or 4 responses. That's called normal. When we get to coaching session number 3, if you remember, I'm going to show everybody the ads I ran, where I ran them, what I invested in each ad, what the results were. And you'll see typically I might get like 3 or 4 responses. But think of what the prospect had to do. Remember, this is a print publication. If we can flip back there for a second, Andrea, they had to, in a print publication, they had to physically type in the domain name. Okay, this is not about clicking a link. They had to go to YorkRegionHomePricing.com. They had to type that out, whether it was on their smartphone or iPad or desktop. So, who does that? Who reads the newspaper, sees an ad, and physically types in an address? Will all of them who visit YorkRegionHomePricing.com leave me their contact information? No. But many of them will. Who will? The best ones. Who are we interested in? We're interested in the best prospects. Okay, so that's something simple you can do. Now, another thing you could do, Greg, is you could run some editorial ads. So let's say that Greg wants to attract sellers in his marketplace. So Andrea is going to take you to the ad generator. We're going to go under sellers, editorial ads for sellers. And everything you need is right there, including the hotline script, the special report. Okay, so it's that easy to get started. Let's move on to the next question. This is from Sue Dolan. Sue is asking, I want to run an ad or more than one ad to get high quality listings this week for a market between 400,000 and 700,000. My sellers have come from relocating out of state. Okay, investors and renters in the past. Well, if they're out of state, if I found that the majority of my buyers were coming from out of state, from a certain state or location, then I would run my ads there. Okay, so if I'm selling vacation homes, second homes, and I'm in Florida, and I know that a lot of my buyers are coming from Canada, well, I would advertise in the local papers in Canada and Google pay-per-click, targeting people in Canada that are searching for Florida vacation homes. Okay, well, what's my ad? So that's the who. Okay, the media, we can test local newspapers, we could test Google pay-per-click. Okay, that's the media. And what's the message going to be? Well, you're going to play around and you're going to test the different messages. So if I'm in Sarasota, Florida, I'm going to offer a list of Sarasota waterfront, luxury waterfront homes, or whatever it is you're selling. I don't know, the price range is between 400 and 700,000. So that's going to go into my ad, Sue. Free list of properties between 400 and 700,000. Okay, if it's local investors or renters, well, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to tweak the ad a little bit for perhaps for renters, right, first-time buyers, or for investors, and I'm going to find the best place to run those ads in my local market. We'll cover more on this on the ad clinic on Friday, but Sue, you're welcome to upload any of the marketing you're working on, and James and I will critique it and give you our opinions. Okay, Edward says we're in a strong seller's market. What ad would you use to compel sellers to list now? Well, you could use the less branded campaigns. You could go to some postcards, for example. Let's have a look at postcards, Andrea. And we'll look specifically at a postcard that could go out to sellers. Let's have a look at find out what your home is worth online. That could go on one side. And then we could have the area home sales report on the other side. Okay, now that's the postcard that I sent out 20,000 every other week with that message on one side, the other message on the other side. Okay, so this works. It doesn't matter whether it's a hot market or a cool market. It's not dependent on the market. But you know, if you can get a seller to raise their hand before they have a relationship with another agent, if you can get your foot in the door and you get their home listed, it's like money in the bank. Okay, so that's one way to do it. You could run the editorial ad that we just looked at. Okay, which of these costly home seller mistakes will you make when you sell your blankety-blank home? You fill in your marketplace. Okay, you could also use the small display ads that we just looked at that would run randomly through the local paper or under homes for sale. All right, let's take our next question here. Anna is asking, Craig, do you have any role play recordings that I can access? I'd like to master the script, and it'd be helpful to be able to listen and practice. So Andrea, maybe you can show everybody how they can listen to both me making calls, and do they have access to any of the prior role play webinars?
They should. I'm looking right now where I haven't gone into the new coaching site to double check, or not the new coaching site, the new groups coaching site. But it does not look like they have anything past when they've started. And we know we've tried to be changing that because we know our members need access to some of our older materials. So I'll get with Adrienne to fix that.
Okay, so if you have a look at where Andrea is here on the coaching site, if you go under libraries and you click on webinar library, Andrea's going to have it set up later today so you can go in and you can listen to some of the past role play webinars. Now remember, we're doing one this Thursday and every Thursday going forward. And also, there is somewhere on the site where you can go and actually listen to me making calls to live clients. This is, these are not, this isn't a setup. These aren't fake prospects. It's me making real calls to real buyers and sellers using the universal callback script. All right, so how do we do that, Andrea?
Well, normally it's going to be here where it says file library and you would type in calls. Unfortunately, just like just a few moments ago, we haven't got it fully set up so you have access to our older material, but I'll get everything fixed today, and you would just type in calls and it's going to come up as follow-up calls. I believe it's ID 41, but I will include all of this information in an email to our members when it's up and available for review.
Okay, perfect. Next question is from Christina and Russ Ramirez. Their question is, Craig, do you recommend a vendor that is familiar with Craig Proctor's USPs and marketings to get business cards made up, etc.? Yes, You'll see that one of our vendors, our printer, is BXL Printing, and Andrea can show you right now how to access their information. Is there a link from the coaching site directly to them?
To BXL, I believe when you click right there, I might have gone too fast.
Yep.
So
That's
under
it.
postcards, hit order postcards now, and then their site will pop up. And you would just go down to the very bottom.
Now once you get to their site, yeah, so they can do business cards. Okay, so click on CP business cards at the top. Postcards, business cards, newsletters. Oh, that's
And
great. I'm meeting with them on Wednesday.
Yes, I received notice about this Friday. Sorry.
Okay. All right. I am meeting with them. They're upgrading apparently. Well, this doesn't look like an upgrade. It looks like a downgrade because they have nothing there. But I'm meeting with them at my office on Wednesday. Click on newsletters. See if that works better. CP newsletters. All right, and go to two-page. There it is. Okay. So some of you have been asking about, well, Craig, where do I get your newsletter? I want to send out a newsletter, and I want my affiliates to advertise in the newsletter. So this company has all my templates, and you can order the newsletter through them. Of course, it'll have your information on, not mine. And are we able to see? Yeah, I don't see where they have the advertisers on that one, but we want to have room at the bottom of that second page for your advertisers. They're going to offset the cost of producing your newsletter. We've got a 4-page newsletter there as well. All right, so if you're interested in a newsletter, you want to go to bxlprinters.com and check it out. Frank Daniels is asking, as a beginner in the Craig Proctor coaching program, 2 essential marketing tools to purchase are the 800 number as well as a viable CRM, such as Wise Agent. Well, look, some of you I know are financially challenged at this point. All you really need to get started is you need to have a less branded website, which you can get for $129 through Success Website, and the less branded hotline, which is, I don't know, probably $30 or $40 a month through AMS. You can use whatever contact management system you'd like to use. Wise Agent is a good one. I don't know if they'll give you a free trial. Do you remember, Andrea, if they give a free trial? But I think it's only about $30 a month.
I don't remember.
Just go to wiseagent.com. Let's see what happens there. Now, they may have special pricing for Craig Proctor members. You might want to let them know that you're a Craig Proctor member.
We're getting some notes saying, Marvis, they do. Ellen says, I think Wise Agent gives you 30 days free.
30 days to try it out. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, free instant access. Okay, so this is web-based. If you have a team, it's great. You know, it's set up for team use, not just a solo agent. I have not used it, but I know many of our members have, and they like it. I used Agent Office. Okay, I know a lot of our members use Top Producer, and when our members ask us about contact management systems, they say, hey, Craig, what's the best one to use? My answer is, you know, use the one you're actually going to use. You know, so don't select a contact management system because of all the bells and whistles that you're never going to use. Make sure, I don't care which one you use, just make sure that it's something that you are going to use, and all of the leads from the website and leads from the hotline can be imported directly into your contact management system. Okay, so the best contact management system is the one you are actually going to use. Okay, some of these things have so many bells and whistles on them, so many clicks and steps you have to take. They're not easy to use. That's why I loved Agent Office. It was simple, but it did what I needed it to do. I could launch an activity plan. Okay, I could easily add my notes, create a new contact, schedule my calls. It did what I needed it to do to sell 500 to 600 homes every year. Next question is from Dennis. I have paid to sponsor an event where 5 Chamber of Commerce are coming together on Wednesdays. I would a pull-up banner with an offer for sell your home within 15 days or less, or I'll pay you $1,000. Would that work? Well, look, everything's a test. It would be great if James and I could say, okay, for you in this marketplace, just do this. Here's the luxury all you have, is you're going to be testing marketing, my marketing, to see what works the best. Some of it won't. Some of it won't work as well as other things. But because everything that you do in the Craig Proctor program will be tracked because you're driving traffic not to you, the person, not to your brokerage, but instead to a specific landing page or a hotline with a specific 4-digit ID number, it's going to give all of you the ability to track. Some of you have never been able to track, or certainly you've never been able to track with this kind of accuracy. But I would never, ever suggest that you run an ad. You'll never hear me or James or anyone on our team tell you to run advertising that can't be tracked. So you're going to experiment with the different messages. You're going to run the messages or the ads in different places. And you're going to figure out, well, what works the best. And once you know what works the best, it's easy. You just keep repeating it. We call it rinse and repeat. Just keep doing it over and over and over again. John McEwen is asking, he says, the city of Toronto is too large, but if we're in Toronto, how can we narrow that filter to find the best area within Toronto? Well, that's easy, John. You do it through that neighborhood search that I just demonstrated. Okay, so my demo was set up for the city of Toronto, but I can go refine that. I can break that down into certain neighborhoods. Okay, so that's how we're going to do that. Just like I took Newmarket and I was able to break it down to Glenway Estates or Stonehaven Estates, etc. Next is Allison. I'm not sure what she's asking. I would like to know where the ad we have buyers is. Okay, maybe that's just me, James, but I'm not understanding that question.
In other words, the ad that shares with sellers that you are working with buyers, that you have buyers. So this would be an example of a branded USP ad where you're promoting the fact that you're currently working with 365 buyers in your system who have all defined exactly what they're looking for. They've all been pre-qualified, and you're currently working with these buyers right now.
Got it. Andrea, do you have examples of that?
I know you do, but I do not know where they are.
Okay, hang on. I'm searching my email. I'll tell you what, James, stall for a minute, and I'll search my email and I'll try to find an example here and where we can find this.
You know, one of the points, Craig, that you make over and over again at the Super Conference is that buyers want houses, and by far that works the best. When you advertise to buyers homes in demand, not surprisingly, it generates more response than any other buyer ad. So if you know what buyers are looking for, advertise homes that they would be looking for, and presto, you'll generate buyers. But the opposite is true when you're talking about sellers. What sellers want are buyers for their home. So if you can demonstrate to a seller that you have buyers, then it has the same effect. So this is a really good question. Now, the trick is, how do you effectively run an ad that articulates that you have buyers? And what we've discovered is that because this is a baby stepping process, there are ways to get sellers to raise their hand. One of those ways would be to advertise that you have buyers, but there are other ways as well. Advertising, find out what your home is worth online, for example. Where this really is powerful is obviously face-to-face at your appointment. And Craig, you demonstrated that at the super conference by being able to show a seller in your presentation a physical list of buyers that you are currently working with, that have responded to different ads that you've run, that have requested properties from you. They've defined exactly what they're looking for. They've given up their anonymity, their contact information, and you are able to physically show a seller all of these buyers that you're currently working with that are actively looking for properties. What you are doing is giving the seller exactly what they're looking for, which is they want buyers for their property, because they know simple supply and demand will tell you the more buyers that are brought to their property, the more demand goes up, and the more demand goes up, the more price goes up. So everybody gets what they want when you can demonstrate the buyers that you are currently working with. And ironically, even though it is most important to the seller, buyers, realtors don't demonstrate this. They might say, oh, I'll find buyers for your property, but it doesn't really go far beyond that. I'll run some ads and we'll generate some buyers on your property. Demonstrating that you already are working with buyers, you already have buyers, is so logical, it's so obvious, but yet typically we don't do that. So this is a really good line of questioning. I'll hunt go, Mr. Proctor.
All right, why don't you take the next question? What I'm trying to find is a postcard that Jim Buttrell sent me.
Now, speaking of Jim Buttrell, I'm actually later on this afternoon, I'm going over to his office and we're doing some training with his team, some inside sales training and stuff like that with his team this afternoon. And so should you not be able to find what you're looking for, I will try to remember to ask him for that when I'm actually at his office this afternoon. What do you think of that?
Yeah, no, I know I have it here. I just can't find it. Anyway, let's keep going. Let's go to the next question here. This is from Sue. I have a listing that is brand new where I'm competing with the home builder, but buyers from the home builder can't move in for 4 months. How does the open house every day work? Well, really, it's just about getting those phone calls that say, Sue, when is the open house? What time is the open house? And the answer is it's whenever you want it to be. We got this idea initially from Bill Watson. He's in Colorado. He stuck out a sign that says open house every day. Says, buyers driving by would call and say, hey, Bill, I'm in front of your property. What time is the house open? I see open house every day. And Bill would look at his schedule and say, I don't know, how about 2 o'clock? Perfect. So that's how it works. It's just a different way to stand apart from everybody else. Instead of saying an open house this weekend, it was open house every day. Now, of course, Bill is really good at getting the buyers into the office, signing them up to a buyer agency agreement, so he's not running around showing buyers homes that they're never going to buy. John is asking, Craig, what version of IMS are you using for this demo? I have the basic. Yes, it's the basic version, John. You can get a broker version. If you're a broker as well, it costs more money, but this is the basic version for $29.95 a month. Joni Alexis is asking, how can we take over a farm area where there's a dominant agent? Well, we talked about that. You're going to use less branded advertising to get listings. You're not competing head-to-head with somebody that has a much larger marketing budget than you have. Here's a question from Barbara Brennan. I need to have some help in converting people from a discussion on the phone using the universal callback script to setting an appointment for them to come into the office. Okay, well, Barbara, I'm not sure if you have a microphone or whether you've called in through the telephone, but James McDonald's rather an expert at this. If you could raise your hand, you can, articulate exactly what the problem is here.
Barbara, you're open.
Barbara, you there?
Does not sound like she has a working mic, unfortunately.
All right, Barbara, we'll look at on Thursday. I would recommend that you get a working mic, and then you can do some role playing with James and I, and we'll help you with this. But yes, you want to qualify the buyers, and you want to make sure that if the buyers answer your probing questions correctly, okay, they're qualified, that means they're motivated and they're ready to buy or sell, that you need to be able to communicate a great offer. The better the offer is, the less resistance you'll have from the buyers in meeting with you. And then when they meet with you, you've got to make sure that you've got a very strong buyer presentation so you can compel them to sign the buyer agency agreement. So I'm using the word compel deliberately. We can't make the buyers meet with us, nor can we make the buyers who do meet with us sign a buyer agency agreement. Okay, we have to compel them using the right language. So yeah, you follow the script. I'm not sure exactly what objections you're getting, but if you could come prepared for Thursday's role play, James and I would be happy to role play and help you out with this. Next question's from Doug and Liz. Hi guys, my wife and I were in Los Angeles last week, and getting back to the office, we have so much to try and learn, and it just seems kind of overwhelming. And then we're on these webinars and time vaporizes. How long is normal to really get up and running? Okay, Doug, so here's what I hear Doug and Liz saying. They feel a little bit overwhelmed. Okay, well, look it. Take a deep breath. Rome wasn't built in a day. You're not going to be selling 500 homes plus a year like Craig in a couple weeks. But here's what you want to start with. Make sure you, at a minimum, get your less branded website up. It's $129 a month, and you have your less branded hotline. And then you're going to start experimenting by running the Craig Proctor ads in different places. Okay? The first step before you run any ads is to think about, well, who would I like to target? That makes sense, right? Many realtors make the mistake of focusing on the message first, and they give very little consideration to the target. But if you don't know who you're talking to in your marketing message, how could you select the message? So we have to do this in the right order. So who do you want to target? And then what message of all the Craig Proctor ads do you believe would resonate the most with that target market? Okay, you're going to experiment with the different messages. You're going to run those different messages using different media. Okay, so online you've got Facebook and Google pay-per-click. You've got Craigslist. Those are three you can start with. Offline, okay, print, you've got many choices. You've got local newspapers. That's the first place I would try, is most of you have a local newspaper that you believe nobody reads. The point that James and I have been making is, yes, they do. Is there less people reading the paper? Yep. But there's also a hell of a lot less real estate agents advertising in that publication. So you've got way less competition. You've also got postcards. Many real estate agents do not use direct mail properly. If they use direct mail at all, it's image or branded type advertising. So you could test sending out postcards. You could run editorial ads in your local paper. So those are all good places to start. And then we're going to demonstrate all this. We're going to demonstrate on Thursday what to say and what to do when you do generate a lead. And on Friday, every Friday, we're going to take a look at the best ads that our members are running. Plus, we'll look at ads that maybe need a little bit of tweaking. And we're going to help all of you understand what our top agents our top members are using to be successful. By the way, when you're submitting your ads, what we'd like to know is where it ran, how much you spent, so what your ad budget was, and most importantly, what your results were.
Craig, was it the buyers in waiting from Jim Bottrell you were looking for earlier?
Yes.
I have that if you wanted to look at it real quickly, or we could just move on.
Yeah, let's have a look at it.
I have one of his flyers, and then what you should see in just a second is his postcard.
Yep, that's the one. So he took a snapshot of his screenshot of his contact management system. So it shows all the buyers he actually has. And I recommend that when you get face-to-face with sellers, you probably want to do this on your laptop or iPad. Just take them online, show them, hey, it's real, or at least have a printout of all the buyers you're currently working with. Our exclusive buyers in waiting system. Okay, so can you make that bigger, Andrea?
Let me see 1 second. I knew it was pretty small.
Just want to read everybody what it says below the headline. It says, our exclusive buyers in waiting system. We can expose your home to thousands of buyers before we even go to the MLS. If you closely look at the screenshot below, you'll notice that we currently have 2,603 home buyers looking in your area, and 650 are high-quality home buyers that need a home as soon as possible. Within 72 hours of listing your home for sale, we'll activate a search and match for your home features to the buyers in our database. Okay, now below, that's one USP. We have all the buyers. So Jim has 2,603 home buyers right away, of which 650 are high quality. Now below the screenshot, it says your home sold for at least 100% of your asking price, or we'll pay you the difference. To the left of this screenshot, more good use of statistics. We sell more homes. Okay, so the average realtor, I guess he's in San Diego, sells, I think that says 3, and Jim sells 48. We sell for more money. So Jim's listings on average sell for 101.2%. The real estate board average, 2.9% less. And we'll sell your home faster, 5.3 days in the market versus 19 days on the market. All right, that's a good example of what to do. All right, let's go back and take a couple more questions before we wrap this up. Are there any audio questions at this point?
We have Warren Huffung.
Yeah, don't be shy, folks. You can actually raise your hand and speak to us as well. We don't have to just do this on chat.
Warren, your line is open. You're on live with us.
Thank you, Andrea. Craig, you mentioned quite a bit at the conference not being tied to our cell phones and using our technology sources to fix that. But I'm concerned about, on AMS, the Find Me option. And how do you deal with that?
Okay, so I don't like that. You have to understand, I refer you to vendors, and here's what we know about vendors. Vendors want to sell you stuff. Would you agree? That's what vendors do. Now, this is where all of you are going to lean on your coach. You're going to lean on your Craig Proctor coach, because it doesn't matter what vendor we refer you to, they're going to want to sell you all their stuff. What I would recommend is that you talk to your coach before you spend any money and say, hey, coach, hey, Craig Proctor coach, what do you think of this? What do I really need? So when we send you to the printer wants to sell you all their printing, right? When we send you to Wise Agent, they're going to want to sell you all their stuff, and same with the website guys and the hotline guys. That's where your coach really can help you, is your coach is going to give you their guidance, okay, share their wisdom on what it is that you really need and how to use it. Okay, so I would like you to, all of you, to talk before you spend money, okay, or even after you sign up. A lot of these companies will give you a free trial. Let's figure out with your coach and in your situation what it is that you really need. But this Find Me feature sort of flies in the face of my way of doing things. Like, I don't want them to find me.
Remember this, though. It is a feature that you can or cannot utilize. It's up to you. It is available. But you don't have to mention it, right? So in other words, if someone's in your hotline and you say at any time during this recording, if you'd like to get the updated current price on this property, press 0. right? It'll automatically be connected, but you don't have to mention that. You don't have to have that set up. Right? They just, I mean,
It's an option.
listen, if you have a team, all right, or at one point, at such point that you do, then that is something that you'll be able to use, because I'll tell you, there is going to be somebody on your team that is going to be available to take those immediate phone calls. If somebody's motivated enough that they're calling in on a property, for example, and they want to know the current updated price on this property, and they press 1 and it automatically connects them to a live person, that live person isn't going to be you. So as long as it isn't you, everybody wins.
And here's the other thing too. If I'm new in the business and I'm starving for some business, I may want to make myself available 24/7. But if I've got an established business and my real estate career, it has been an irritant to my family. My family's sick and tired. They're aggravated of me being on call 24/7. I'm probably not going to want to be found all the time. That's the point I got to. I got to the fact that this marketing works so well that if I was on call all the time, then I would have no life. So let's assume that this is real, and that this marketing, once we get it figured out for you, will create a situation where you've got lots of buyers and sellers calling you constantly. You're going to have to make that decision. Do I want to make myself available 24/7? You see, with most of my marketing, there's nowhere where we're promising the prospect that they're going to reach us right away. In fact, in much of the advertising that I teach you, we're trying to downplay that this is even coming from a real estate agent. Like they're not expecting you to call right away. They're not expecting a call from a real estate agent at all.
And it's the prospect's preference not to talk to a salesperson. So
yeah, we really
prefer to get the information without you.
Yeah, we're brainwashed to believe that they want to talk to us. Okay, and I've made a lot of money for creating this perception amongst prospects that you can get what you want without having to talk to a salesperson. Let's step out of real estate for a minute. How many of you would be okay getting all the information on a new car without having to speak to a car salesperson?
Absolutely.
If you could get the same deal or the best deal possible on a new car that you really wanted, and you never had to talk to a car salesperson, how many would you prefer to do that? Most of us would, right? So we have to understand our prospects are the same as us. Okay, we have a question here. It's kind of a long question from Jordan Tanner. Let's see if Jordan has a working microphone.
Sorry about that. Jordan, your line is open on our end. Go ahead.
Hey, Craig. Hey, Andrea. Hey, James.
Hey, Jordan.
How you doing this morning, Jordan?
Great. How are you? Good.
Okay, so what's on your mind?
I've met with the seller twice in hopes of getting a listing signed. It was to no success. She says she wants offers on the property, but is just intimidated by signing paperwork. So I'm wondering, is this something that I move on from, or do I get bring offers to her house with a buyer agency signed?
Okay, so here's how I would handle this. Okay, so let's say that you're the seller. I would say, Jordan, what you're saying is you want to limit the buyers for your property just with the buyers that I'm currently working with. Is that correct?
Well, I just want an offer. I just want to sell my house.
Right. Okay. So
yeah.
That would be in my interest, just to sell your home to one of my buyers, and you're sort of operating in a vacuum, right? Because we're only working with one of my buyers. May I make a suggestion? That we try to market your home to sell it for the most amount of money, whether it be to one of my buyers or one of the buyers that one of the other thousands of agents have in the area? What would be best for you? Limiting the exposure to your property just to one of my buyers, or in addition to my buyers, opening it up to the buyers that work with any of the agents in the city?
Mm-hmm. All right, that makes sense.
Right, that's the way you need to explain it.
And there's only one way that's going to happen, and that's if you get the property on MLS. But the only way that's going to happen is they have to hire you. What about using a cancellation guarantee?
Oh, I stressed that.
Well, is it? Let's try to find out what the true objection is. You said a second ago that the seller said that she didn't like doing paperwork. Is that the truth, or does she not like the commitment factor?
It's the commitment. She's worried about commitment.
Okay. Well, if you're going to represent her, then you need some type of commitment. It's that simple. So what's most important to her? Selling her home for the most amount of money in the least amount of time, or selling it for less money and perhaps having it take longer but having no commitment. Because unfortunately you can't have it both ways, right? And if she's not going to commit to you, then it's good to know that from the onset, right? You already know the answer. The answer is move on. Not all the sellers will commit to you, just like not all the buyers will commit to you. That's why we want to ask for commitment right away, early in the relationship, because if the answer is no, I want to find out now before I waste any more time. But this whole idea of, if you have a buyer, bring it on, and I want to work that way, you need to explain to her the truth. That is great for you. That would work in your self-interest, but it's not in her self-interest. Limiting the buyers to her home just to buyers you're working with versus getting both the buyers that you're working with and the buyers from all the thousands of other agents, that's what's in her best interest if she wants to sell her home for the most amount of money. Now, if, of course, selling her home for the most amount of money is not important to her, then, we could do it her way.
Maybe she had a bad experience, and if you can isolate what that bad experience was, you can talk about how you remedy that.
Well, if you're using the cancellation guarantee and you're saying to her, look, I can't be one of these agents that comes into your house today and I sound good today to get your listing. I have to do a good job every single day to keep your business. This is an unconditional guarantee. There's no strings attached. If she won't go forward even with the cancellation guarantee, personally, my advice would be just move on.
Okay.
All right, hope that helps. Let's take a couple more before we wrap this up. Edgar's asking, when we take a listing, does the Craig Proctor system involve mailing out around the listing to generate leads, or is the 800 number sufficient? Not sure what we're saying here. What's the best way to market? Well, when you list a new property, you could send out just listed and just sold, but it needs to have a universal offer. You see, most realtors send out a just listed with a picture of the property, or a just sold with a picture of the property that's sold, and sometimes they'll even have the sale price on. With a just listed, it'll have the listed price. Well, why does the prospect need to call you? What you want to do is, with a just listed or sold, it needs to offer a list of all the current listings and recent home sales, because people that would be responding either looking to buy in that neighborhood or they have a home in that area and they're looking to sell it. Okay, let's take a couple more, then we'll wrap it up. Unfortunately, I got more questions here than we can handle. This is from Michael Fisher. When sending out postcards or other direct mail, does the post office automatically screen out the ones who have requested to be on the do not mail list? I don't know how that works. I don't think that applies to bulk mailing. I don't think you can take yourself off the list. I'm not sure of that, but I think the post office could answer that question. Maybe you can, and if the post office can do that, then they would have to do it. All right. Diana says, I'm in Los Angeles. My local newspaper is very expensive. Please give me some advice. James, I'll let you take that one.
Okay, read that one more time, Craig. Sorry.
I'm in Los Angeles, and advertising the local paper is expensive. What should I do?
Well, expensive is relative, first of all. Let's understand that if you're in Los Angeles and you procure one transaction because of any ad, your commission will far exceed hundreds of times whatever you would spend on an ad. So let's first of all establish that that's definitely true. Also, we have to determine what local means. The Los Angeles Times is not the local paper that we're referring to. Okay, what we're talking about are the little community newspapers. How about this? The newspapers that you may not even know exist in your marketplace. You should do a Google search for local publications, local newspapers in your area. There's a website, Andrea, we haven't gone to it in a long time. It's called usnpl.com. Does that still exist, Andrea? And it lists all by state and then by city, all of the different local newspapers, just an easy resource tool. It's usnpl.com.
Yes, at the end of session one, you had to leave early, but at the end of session one, we did review this on some of the steps you should take when getting started.
Okay. Yeah, because I'll tell you, the local papers are a great opportunity, especially editorial style ads, remnant space. You don't have to spend a fortune in these publications. You can also look at doing inserts in them as well. But just understand that local means local. It's a paper that's likely delivered every week or maybe a couple of times a week. It's not a daily paper. Those are going to be prohibitively expensive, especially when you're first just starting out. The benefit of those small local papers is because they're smaller, they're cheaper, and because they're only distributed a few times a week, there's some shelf life. So you're generating leads from the ads over a prolonged period of time to your benefit as well. So look at those things, but again, let's make sure that we've resourced all the different local papers so we know what we have to work with.
Okay, final question is from Richard Moss. You know Richard well, our longtime member in Las Vegas. And hey, Richard, James and I are going to be in Las Vegas on June the 7th. We're speaking at that mastermind event again, so I'd love to have you on the panel. Richard says, though, he'd like to refer I don't know whether it's a buyer or seller, but he says he needs an agent in the Craig Proctor program to take on a referral in Roanoke, Virginia. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it.
Roanoke.
Roanoke, okay.
Roanoke.
Roanoke, Virginia. So, Richard, how should they contact you if they want to take that referral? Okay, we'll wait for Richard to respond. We can get a hold of Richard through our office if need be, but if you work that area, we have a referral for you. Okay, so Richard's typed in his email address is richardmoss@remax.net. So it's Richard and then Moss, M-O-S-S, at remax.net. If you're interested in taking this referral, easy sell. Okay, so it's a seller, I guess. All right, John McEwen says, in Canada, Canada Post does have a way to opt out. When running a campaign there are two numbers of units. One is total points of call and another for those who have not opted out. Okay, so I guess the post office does it for you in Canada. You can specify that. Okay, Ellen Levy says, Richard, we have a Craig Proctor Millionaire Plus agent, Frank Prindle in Virginia. Yeah, Frank's been with us forever. So, Ellen, you're pretty confident that Frank handles that part of Virginia? What's it called, James?
Roanoke.
Roanoke. Roberta is asking, Craig, how do you feel about joining a team if you're a newer agent? Well, look, I think this is the way the business is going. I think you're either going to start a team or you're going to be part of somebody else's team. I think that's just the future of real estate. It's very hard for the solo agent to compete. So that's pretty much how it works, is you're either eventually going to create your own team or you're going to be part of someone else's. Ellen also says, Sarah Reynolds. Ellen, who do you think would be closer to that area? Sarah or Frank? See, it's good to know places, people in high places, James.
It is.
Not sure.
I want to, we're coming to the end. We want to remind everybody of our webinars going on this week when you're ready, Craig.
Yeah, why don't you do that, because we're going to wrap this up in a second.
Okay. We have Why Follow Up Was Everything coming up on Wednesday for our group that started in March, if so, in Florida. And then we have some awesome webinars for some other groups also, including our role play for all our groups and marketing clinic on Friday for all of our groups. So please check your personal coaching group webinar schedule. As you can see on your screen now, everybody's will be a little different depending on when you started with us and what your topics are currently this week. But you just go to schedule, webinars, and then everything that you are invited to is going to be listed.
All right, very good. Final thoughts from you, Mr. McDonald.
Yeah, looking forward to that. If anybody has any questions in the meantime, you don't only have to wait until the webinars. Make sure you reach out to your coach or reach out to us, and you've got plenty of help, that's for sure. But Thursday, yeah, that's our role play session. And again, for everybody that brought up questions to do with ads you're running or landing pages, remember, upload those on for the Friday ad clinic session, and then we can actually look at them. We look at your ad, we can go to the domain name, take a look at the landing page, and we can really do like a proper autopsy where, you know, we've got the body in front of us. And that's the best way to do it. So don't forget to do that. You can do it at any point in time between now and Friday.
Great, and it's wonderful to see so many of you participating on the helpline and all of our webinars. We know this for sure. Those of you that are most successful at the Craig Proctor program are those of you that participate. There's a direct correlation between the two. So I want to thank everybody for
another
this.
thing I want to bring up real quick, by the way, almost forgot, because it's coming up quickly. There are a lot of our members from Florida, or at least that participated in the Florida Super Conference, and you know that on May the 13th, it's Friday the 13th, so it'll be a very, very spooky day. We'll all have to be very careful. But on Friday, May the 13th, is our boot camp in Fort Lauderdale, our one-day boot camp for coaching members only. So if you're on the East Coast, you want to make plans to be with us that day in Fort Lauderdale. It's all over the coaching website, so you'll see it on the homepage when you log in. But do make a plan to be there, and we're going to spend an entire day working on your business, and you're going to love it. It's a really, really great experience, and one that'll be very worth the effort of taking a day to participate in.
Yeah, they're on the screen right now. So you'll see we've got Orlando, Florida boot camp on top, and for East Coast members, and West Coast members, Huntington Beach. Okay, Huntington Beach coaching boot camp is Friday, June 24th. Okay, and James just mentioned the Florida boot camp.
Yeah, which is on the 13th of May.
I'm not sure, right? I would love to show you guys the actual event.
It's because this is specifically for the new group. That's why. But yes, I assure you, it is coming up. Cool.
All right. Let's wrap it up, everyone. Thanks for being with us. We'll talk to everybody this week on the several webinars we have planned for you. Take care and go sell some houses. That concludes today's webinar.